Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Have you ever felt like life is just a series of events happening to you, leaving you feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or out of control? What if I told you that an ancient philosophy, born over 2,000 years ago in the bustling marketplaces of Athens, holds a powerful, practical key to mastering your mind in our chaotic modern world? Today, we're not just taking a history lesson, we're unlocking an operating system for the human mind. We're talking about Stoicism. And no, it's not about being a stoic with a lowercase s, emotionless and grim, bottling everything up. Far from it. True Stoicism, the philosophy of thinkers like the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the playwright Seneca, and the former slave Epictetus, is a vibrant, life-affirming guide to cultivating an unshakable inner peace and mental fortitude no matter what life throws at you. At the very heart of this entire philosophy is one revolutionary, life-changing idea. It's called the dichotomy of control. Epictetus laid it out perfectly. Some things are within our power, while others are not. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but truly understanding and living by this principle is the first and most crucial step toward tranquility. So, what's in our control? Well, almost everything external to our own mind. We can't control the weather, the economy, or what other people think of us. We can't control if someone cuts us off in traffic, if our flight gets delayed, or if we get sick. We can some of these things, sure, but we can't ultimately command them. The Stoics argued that the vast majority of our human suffering, our anger, anxiety, frustration, and fear, comes from a fundamental mistake, trying to control the uncontrollable. Think about it. You're stuck in a massive traffic jam. You grip the steering wheel, your blood pressure rises, you curse the other drivers. You are trying to mentally will the traffic to disappear, an impossible task. You are fighting reality, and reality always wins. Now, what in our control? This is where the magic happens. The Stoics say the only things truly in our power are our own inner world. Our judgments, our opinions, our values, our choices, and our reactions. You can't control the traffic jam, but you have absolute 100% control over how you choose to respond to it. You can choose anger and frustration, or you can choose to see it as an unexpected opportunity to listen to that podcast you've been saving, to call a friend, or to simply practice patience and breathe. The external event is the same. The internal experience is worlds apart. This is where your true power lies. By focusing your energy exclusively on what you can control, your own mind, you become invincible to the chaos of the outside world. But the Stoics didn't stop there. If our choices and judgments are all that matter, then what should guide those choices? The answer is virtue. For the Stoics, virtue isn't about religious piety or being a goody two-shoes, it's about excellence of character. It's about living in accordance with reason and our nature as rational, social beings. This was the sole good, the only thing worth pursuing. Everything else, health, wealth, reputation, was considered an indifferent. Not because they were bad, but because they had no bearing on your moral character. You could be a good, virtuous person whether you were rich or poor, sick or healthy. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues to guide our actions. Wisdom, the ability to see the world clearly, to distinguish what is good, bad, and indifferent. It's the knowledge of how to navigate life's complexities. Justice, this is about treating others with fairness, kindness, and respect, recognizing our shared humanity. Courage, not just physical bravery, but the moral courage to face our fears, to stand up for what is right, and to endure hardship with grace. Temperance, or moderation, the ability to master our desires and appetites, to avoid excess, and to maintain self-control. By making virtue the compass for all your actions, you create a stable internal scorecard for your life that doesn't depend on external validation. So, how do we do this? How do we manage our reactions and live virtuously? The Stoics were incredibly practical. They developed a toolkit of mental exercises to train the mind, much like you train your body in a gym. One of the most famous is negative visualization, or the premeditation of evils. This sounds grim, but its purpose is beautiful. You take a few moments each day to imagine losing the things you hold dear: your job, your home, your loved ones. The goal isn't to create anxiety, but the opposite. Firstly, it makes you incredibly grateful for what you have, right now, in this moment. Secondly, it acts as a psychological vaccine. By contemplating loss in a controlled way, you mentally prepare yourself for the inevitable challenges of life, reducing the shock and sting of future adversity. Another key practice was journaling. The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, one of the most profound books ever written, was never meant for publication. It was his private journal. He used it to reflect on his day, to examine his judgments, to challenge his own failings, and to remind himself of these core Stoic principles. It was a space for self-correction and self-improvement, a daily conversation with himself on how to be a better, more rational, and more virtuous human being. So, we have this powerful, ancient operating system for the mind. Focus on what you can control, live by virtue, and use reason to manage your emotions. It's a philosophy built for resilience, for finding peace in a turbulent world. But what does this ancient wisdom have to do with a modern therapist's office? You would be absolutely shocked. This philosophical framework didn't just fade into history. It laid the direct groundwork for one of the most effective, evidence-based psychological tools we have today.
Now that we've explored the foundations of Stoicism, this ancient art of mental fortitude, let's build the bridge to the 21st century. Because the core ideas we just discussed didn't just survive, they were rediscovered, tested, and scientifically validated, forming the backbone of what we now call cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. If Stoicism is the philosophical blueprint, CBT is the modern clinical application. The connection is so direct, it's almost startling. Let's start with the most famous Stoic quote of all, from Epictetus. People are not disturbed by things, but by the views which they take of them. Read that again. It's not the event itself, but your view of the event that causes your emotional suffering. This single sentence is the absolute cornerstone of CBT. In the 1960s, psychiatrist Aaron Beck developed what he called the cognitive model, which is now the heart of CBT. It's often explained with a simple ABC framework. This is the thing that happens. For example, your boss gives you some critical feedback on a project. This is your emotional and behavioral reaction. You feel anxious, ashamed, and you avoid your boss for the rest of the day. Now, most of us assume that A causes C. The critical feedback me feel anxious. But both the Stoics and CBT therapists argue that we're missing the most important step. Thought, or thought about the event. This is the interpretation, the judgment. Your automatic thought might be, my boss thinks I'm incompetent. I'm going to get fired. I'm a total failure. It's this B that directly causes the emotional consequence C, not the activating event A. The Stoics knew this 2,000 years ago, and CBT provides the clinical structure to work with it. The entire goal of therapy becomes learning how to identify, challenge, and change those irrational or unhelpful beliefs at step B. This leads us to the primary technique of CBT, identifying and challenging irrational thoughts. CBT has a name for these unhelpful beliefs: cognitive distortions. These are habitual, biased ways of thinking that are often inaccurate and lead to negative emotions. You might recognize some of them. Taking a small negative event and blowing it up into a worst-case scenario. I made a typo in that email. Now the client will lose all respect for us and we'll lose the contract. Seeing things in absolute all or nothing terms. If I'm not a complete success, I'm a total failure. Assuming you know what other people are thinking, usually negatively. I know they all thought my presentation was boring. The process in CBT is to catch these thoughts and question them, a practice known as cognitive restructuring. A therapist might ask, what's the evidence for that thought? What's the evidence against it? Is there a more balanced or realistic way to look at this situation? This is a modern version of the Stoic discipline of assent. The Stoics taught that when an impression or thought enters your mind, you don't have to immediately assent to it or agree with it. You have the power to pause, examine it with reason, and decide if it's true and worthy of your belief. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to challenge his first impressions. CBT simply provides a systematic, Socratic method for doing exactly what the Stoics preached, applying reason to our automatic thoughts before they spiral into negative emotions. Another powerful parallel is the concept of reframing. We saw how the Stoics aimed to see obstacles not as misfortunes, but as opportunities to practice virtue. A delayed flight is a chance to practice patience. An unfair criticism is a chance to practice forgiveness. This idea is captured in the title of a famous modern book on Stoicism, The Obstacle is the Way. In CBT, this is called cognitive reframing. It's the skill of consciously changing your perspective on a situation to change its emotional impact. It's not about lying to yourself or toxic positivity. It's about finding a more constructive, empowering, or simply more realistic interpretation. Instead of thinking, this project failure is a disaster, a reframed thought might be, this was a painful experience, but what can I learn from it to ensure the next project is a success? You're turning a source of distress into a source of growth, a core tenet of both Stoicism and CBT. Finally, while Stoicism is heavily cognitive, it is not a passive philosophy. It demands action. The Stoics practiced voluntary hardship, like sleeping on the floor or eating plain food, to build resilience and prove to themselves they could endure discomfort. This has a clear echo in CBT's use of behavioral experiments. If a person has a deep-seated belief, like, if I speak up in a meeting, everyone will think I'm stupid, a therapist might design an experiment. The task is to speak up in the next meeting and observe what actually happens. The person is actively gathering real-world data to test their belief. In doing so, they often discover their belief was exaggerated or completely false. Both Stoicism and CBT understand that changing your mind is powerful, but proving it to yourself through action is what makes the change stick. From the dichotomy of control to the ABC model, from challenging false impressions to restructuring cognitive distortions, the parallels are undeniable. CBT has, in many ways, taken the profound wisdom of the Stoics and translated it into a structured, accessible, and scientifically backed methodology for improving mental health. It's a beautiful testament to the timelessness of human psychology, proving that the challenges we face today are the same ones we faced 2 millennia ago, and that the solutions, based on reason, perspective, and self-control, are just as powerful as ever. If you found this connection between ancient wisdom and modern science fascinating, please do us a favor and hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. And we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which Stoic principle or CBT technique resonates most with you? Thanks for watching, and remember to focus on what you can control. See you in the next one.